Hare Krishna, can one of you please lead the invocation prayers? Hare Krishna, either one of you? Somebody?
Shall I, Prabhuji?
Yeah, go ahead.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दश्यामनञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुमिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मायै ददाति पदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरु वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगना रघुचान्वितं तां सजीवं सात्विकं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदां सहगना ललितं श्रीविशाखान्वितं च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपीशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये माञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming to read and discuss Srila Prabhupada and Krishna's instruction, and thank you in advance for taking responsibility to apply the learnings in your day-to-day life. So today we will discuss inquiries from Canto 2, Chapter 1 as submitted by you all. Question number 1. If a single moment of total surrender at death is sufficient for perfection, why is there such a heavy emphasis on a lifetime of disciplined sadhana practice? Is the shortcut of Khatvanga Maharaj available to someone who hasn't already lived a life of high responsibility and spiritual awareness? So we have discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.15.50 that when Draupadi by herself sat down to meditate, why she was able to meditate is because she had already learned how to meditate. And Draupadi, as well as any devotee, is able to remember Krishna is because throughout their life they are remembering and serving Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita 8.5, we have discussed that the second line says, Smaran Muktva Kalevaram. 8.5 does not say Kirtan Muktva Kalevaram. So if one is frustrated with material world, he comes to know about this process to remember Krishna at the time of death. He will attain spiritual world, and he shoots himself while saying Krishna. Now, if this person throughout his life has lived a life of sin and a life of sense gratification, even if he says Krishna while shooting himself, it will be very difficult for him to remember Krishna. He will most likely remember sin and sense gratification activities. So all of you can actually practice this for yourself. I had asked all of you to practice this every day from or Bhagavad Gita chapter 8 onward discussion, that next morning, try to remember what is the first thing you remember. Is it your fantasy? Or is it your work related task? Or your to do list? Or your family members? And judge for yourself. What are you remembering? Whatever you will remember is because you have taken the greatest shelter in that particular task. And why you remember all these other points other than Krishna? Because throughout your life, you may be absorbed in these items. So, disciplined sadhana is to purify and engage the mind in remembering Krishna so that we may have a chance to remember Krishna at the time of death, because death is very difficult. If you recall the presentation, Sumnima's presentation, she had a visual that death is something like 1,000 scorpions biting at once. Therefore, if we have remembered Krishna throughout our life by chanting, by doing devotional services, then Krishna will remember us and Krishna will help us remember Krishna at the time of death. So, without purification of mind, it is going to be very difficult to remember Krishna at the time of death. This diligent sadhana throughout the life of chanting Hare Krishna, doing devotional services, studying scriptures, devotee association, Gopinath worship are the ways to purify ourselves. Does that answer the inquiry? Yes, no, silence.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Guruji.
Thank you. Question number 2. At times, my close family members say that chanting is only for aged people. So how should I answer to these type of questions? Please advise. So there is a gulf of difference between materialistic mindset and devotee's mindset. Devotee wants to give the best to Krishna. Therefore, from early age, while the body is fit, devotee engages body, mind, words, everything in Krishna's service. Materialistic persons, they want to enjoy the body and senses. And when the body is old and of not much use, then they want to offer the body to Krishna. No, we should offer the best to Krishna. So Prahlad Maharaj has advised that one should start devotional services from age 5 or even earlier. We'll read Srimad Bhagavatam 7.6.1 translation and purport for what Prahlad Maharaj has advised. So I have 7.6.1 on screen. Remya, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Prahlad Maharaja said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Hare Krishna.
Purport.
The whole purpose of Vedic civilization and of reading the Vedas is to attain the perfect stage of devotional service in the human form of life. Although to the Vedic system, therefore, from the very beginning of life, the Brahmacharya system is introduced so that from one's very childhood, from the age of 5 years, one can practice modifying one's human activities so as to engage perfectly in devotional service. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 40, Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Modern civilization, not referring to the verdicts of Vedic literature, is so cruel to the members of human society that instead of teaching children to become brahmacharis, it teaches mothers to kill their children even in the womb on the plea of curbing the increase of population. And if by chance a child is saved, he is educated only for sense gratification. Gradually, throughout the entire world, human society is losing interest in the perfection of life. Indeed, men are living like cats and dogs, spoiling the duration of their human lives by actually preparing to transmigrate again to the degraded species among the 8,400,000 forms of life. The Krishna conscious movement is anxious to serve human society by teaching people to perform devotional service, which can save a human being from being degraded again to animal life. As already stated by Prahlad Maharaja, Bhagavata Dharma consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. In all the schools, colleges and universities and at home, all children and youth should be taught to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, they should be taught to hear the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, to put them into practice in their lives, and thus to become strong in devotional service, free from fear of being degraded to animal life. Following Bhagavata Dharma has been made extremely easy in this age of Kali. The Shastra says, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti Eva Nasti, Eva Nasti, Eva Gatir Anyatha. One need only chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Everyone engaged in the practice of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra will be completely cleansed from the core of his heart and can be saved from the cycle of birth and death. Hare Krishna.
Right. So from age of 5 years or even earlier, you should practice devotional services. And Prabhupada explains that in schools, you should teach children Bhagavad Gita knowledge so as to learn how to live a proper human life and not a degraded life like animals. And Prabhupada explains the process is made simplified in Kali Yuga. Harer Nam, Harer Nam eva Kevalam. And then the verse further emphasizes, Kalau Nasti, Eva Nasti, Eva Nasti, Eva Gatir Anyata. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhupada.
Okay. Question number 3. Can you please explain the theory of pantheism that has been explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.20? So pantheism means everything is God. That God is diffused in the totality of nature. In Bhagavad Gita, we have discussed in 9.15, Ekatvena. So instead of everything is God, the correct understanding is that everything has a relationship with God because everything is God's energy. Now you will understand pantheism when I explain the other concepts. The other concept is polytheism. Polytheism means there are many gods. So Greeks, Hindus are polytheist. So the prefix demi for demigods means partial. Just as say you say semicircle, means it's a partial circle. So demigods have partial powers of God, not full powers. Demigods have more powers than we jivas, but demigods don't have full powers as the Supreme Lord. So pantheism is everything is God. Polytheism means there are many gods. Then monotheism means there is one God. So Muslims, Christians, they are all monotheist. Now Vedic explanation is much more higher. Vedic explanation explains there is one God, but he comes in many forms. And further understanding in bhakti is that we don't worship one God, rather we worship the couple, Shri Radha Krishna. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Question number 4. Can you kindly provide a scriptural reference to where it is described that Katwanga Maharaj was a human who went to heaven and then returned to earth as a human when it was time for him to die? If he was human, how was he able to assist demigods in their fight? So this question has subsequent part on demigods. Let's first answer this first part about the reference for Katwanga Maharaj, and we'll come to the subsequent parts. So Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.13, we'll read the translation and purport as the direct answer for this inquiry. So I have on the screen 2.1.13. Raksha will read the translation and purport.
The saintly king Katwanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead. Purport: a fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not everything. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. Human life is meant for preparing ourselves for that prime duty. Maharaj Khatvanga is mentioned herein as a saintly king because even when the responsibility of the state management, he was not at all forgetful of the prime duty of life. Such was the case with other Raj Rishis, saintly kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir and Maharaj Parikshit. They were all exemplary personalities on account of their being alert in discharging their prime duty. Maharaj Khatvanga was invited by the demigods in the higher planets to fight demons, and as a king he fought the battles to the full satisfaction of the demigods. The demigods, being fully satisfied with him, wanted to give him some benediction for material enjoyment. But Maharaj Khatvanga, being very much alert to his prime duty, inquired from the demigod about his remaining duration of life. This means that he was not as anxious to accumulate some material benediction from the demigod as he was to prepare himself for the next life. He was informed by the demigods, however, that his life would last only a moment longer. The king at once left the heavenly kingdom, which is always full of material enjoyment of the highest standard, and coming down to this earth, took ultimate shelter of the all-safety personality of Godhead. He was successful in his great attempt and achieved liberation. This attempt, even for a moment, by the saintly king was successful because he was always alert to his prime duty. Maharaj Parikshit was thus encouraged by the great Sukadev Goswami, even though he had only 7 days left in his life to execute the prime duty of hearing the glories of the Lord in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. By the will of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit instantly met the great Sukadev Goswami, and the great treasure of spiritual success left by him is nicely mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Right, so the inquiry clearly answered here that Khatvanga Maharaj was invited by the demigods to higher planets to fight on behalf of demigods. And then he immediately left heaven and came back on earth. So that's the inquiry that about the scriptural reference. Does that answer the inquiry? Now do understand that in earlier yugas, it was possible to travel to these really far away planets. Now this is not possible. Does that answer the first part? And I will then bring up the next part of inquiry. The further inquiry says, also kindly give a scriptural reference to support that demigods are not true worshippers. I got the message that demigods, other than some exceptions you mentioned, will find it very difficult to reach Krishna. That some of them come to earth in Kali Yuga as humans so that they can go back to Krishna. Maybe I misunderstood. Sounds like demigods are less blessed than others by God. So on this demigod point, we have discussed at great length in our Bhagavad Gita study that demigods are at Jiva Tattva level like you and me. It is just that demigods have management of universe tasks assigned to them. Just as in an office, all are employees. Some are managers with managerial rights. Similarly, how demigods have management rights. So we'll read again Srimad Bhagavatam 3.9.12. Krishna says that Krishna is more pleased with devotees as compared to demigods. Demigods are Sakam devotees. If you recall yoga ladder, Sakam level is at a low end on yoga ladder as compared to you all devotees. Devotees are higher than demigods. devotees doing bhakti yoga are higher than demigods. So it is very difficult to go back to Godhead from heaven because of all the enjoyment available. Therefore, Khatvanga Maharaj immediately came back to earth. We read a statement in the purport. Khatvanga Maharaj said he did not want to be distracted by all the enjoyment available in heaven. Now, in terms of this understanding that it is very difficult to go back to Godhead from heaven as compared to earth, understand this with an analogy. That visualize earth as ground level and heaven as rooftop of a building. Now, a plane cannot fly from the rooftop. The plane will be very easily be able to fly from the ground level. So let's read Srimad Bhagavatam 3.9.12, the paragraph which starts with Bhagavad Gita 4.11 verse reference. Padma Kumar, if you want to read this paragraph, the starting point is highlighted, 4.11.
Bhagavad Gita 4.11 states, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tatavai bhajami aham. Although Lord is equally kind to every living being, the living beings from their own part are able to please the Lord to either a greater or lesser extent. Demigods are called Sakaman devotees or devotees with material desires in mind, while pure devotees are called Niskama devotees because they have no desire for their personal interest. The Sakama devotees are self-interested because they don't think of others and therefore they are not able to satisfy the Lord perfectly. Whereas the pure devotees take the missionary responsibility of turning non-devotees into devotees and they are therefore able to satisfy the Lord more than the demigods. Lord is mindful of the non-devotees, although he is sitting within everyone's heart as well-wisher and super soul. However, he also gives them the chance to receive his mercy through his pure devotees who are engaged in missionary activities. Sometimes the Lord himself descends for missionary activities as he did in the form of Lord Chaitanya, but mostly he sends his bona fide representative and thus he shows his causeless mercy towards the non-devotees. The Lord is also satisfied with his pure devotees when he wants to give them the credit for the missionary success, although he would do the work personally. This is a sign of his satisfaction with his pure Niskama devotees compared to Sakama devotees. By such transcendental activities, the Lord simultaneously becomes free from the charge of partiality and exhibits his pleasure with the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Right, so demigods are Sakam devotees. Pure devotees are Nishkam. So Lord is more pleased with the devotees as compared to demigods because devotees have the missionary responsibility of turning non-devotees to devotees. But demigods have their own desires. So they cannot fulfill or demigods cannot satisfy the Lord as much as the devotees satisfy the Lord. Does that answer the inquiry? Yes, no, silence. So there's a question posted in the chat. Does Kali Yuga also affect heaven? Are the symptoms same there? So it is correct that all yugas are same in the entire universe. But the degrees are different because in heaven, enjoyment is so much that when Kali Yuga miseries are there, they are little because the enjoyment available there overpowers everything else. But the effect is identical in the entire universe for each of the yugas in the respective times. So, Nima, does that help?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Just a question, like Khatwanga Maharaj, he was in which yuga?
Um, so the lifespan is not described. So generally what happens is in Bhagavatam, you can judge the the incident in which yuga depending on the lifespan. So if you actually follow through Bhagavatam, say in Canto 6, up to Canto 6, it's largely in Satyuga, but then the Ajamil pastime comes where the lifespan is less. So Ajamil pastime happened in some Kalyug, not necessarily in the day of Brahmaji that is described. In some Kalyug, it's placed very close to where Satyug events are described. Now, for Katwanga Maharaj, although age is not described, but the fact that he is able to travel to other really far away planets, so it will be some earlier yuga, probably Satyuga. It's not described directly, so it's only a brief mention of 3-4 verses of Khatwanga Maharaj. I'm pretty sure the information will be there available someplace, but it definitely will be some earlier yuga where the travel between the various higher planets and Earth was possible. Does that help for the time being?
Yes, Prabhuji. So, in all yugas, it was always that Earth was, lifespan in Earth would be longer, so they could do more endeavor compared to heaven, right?
So it's not same in all yugas. In Satyug, the lifespan is 100,000 years. In the second yuga is 10,000 years. In the third yuga is 1,000 years. And in Kali Yuga is just about 100, around 100 years. So we have discussed in Yoga Ladder class, I highlighted the
No, Prabhu, I meant lifespan in heaven compared to Earth. Like it was longer in Earth. That is why he wanted to come to the Earth to finish or do devotional service as much as possible.
so when demigod said that he had only a moment's life left, so that was moment in heavenly terms, which was equivalent to about 45 minutes of 1 hour in his real life on earth. Therefore he immediately came to earth, and by the time he traveled to earth, there was very little time for him to survive, and he just focused on remembering Krishna. Does that help?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Everybody on the same page? Question number 5. Similarly, it is said in the scriptures that 1,000 names of Vishnu are equal to one name of Rama, and 3 names of Lord Rama are equal to one name of Krishna. So question is, why don't we simply just chant Krishna in this case? So for your prescribed number of 16 rounds of japa at least every day, we are required to chant the full Hare Krishna Mahamantra as is prescribed by scriptures and acharyas. We should not manufacture our own process. Rather, we should follow. So this manufacturing of own process applies to many parts, right? Some of you go and do things by yourself, go on YouTube and do things by yourself. When I have clearly described not to go on YouTube. So we should not manufacture our own process. We should simply follow that you should chant the full Hare Krishna Mahamantra, at least 16 rounds of japa every day. For rest of the time, you can chant just Krishna's name. Just as Vrajvasis chant Radhe Radhe throughout their day. Now, one time Srila Prabhupada was asked almost identical question that the disciple told Srila Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, I want to chant your name, Prabhupada's name, for my 16 rounds of japa, because spiritual master is Paramatma for the disciple. So Srila Prabhupada said, follow scriptures. Krishna has infused all the potency in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, made it easy for Kali. We just read Harer Nam, Kevalam, the verse. And Prabhupada said simultaneously, it is okay to remember spiritual master all the time. But the scriptures have given the prescribed number of rounds that you have to chant for your daily sadhana. That has to be the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the full Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You cannot manufacture something by yourself. Does that help with the inquiry? Sumnima.
Prabhuji, I'm still a bit confused if they're all Krishna. So how can one name be, one name be equal or higher than the other?
Yeah, Krishna has the highest potency, right? All other incarnations, they are incarnations, and we have discussed this candle analogy that and the bulb analogy. So in the candle analogy, we have discussed that from one candle, you light a candle and then you light other candles from the first candle. The first candle is still the first candle. So this analogy should be in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.28, I think. That's my guess. Somewhere in Bhagavatam, it should be there in 1.3.28 or somewhere. The first candle is still the first candle. So Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has all the potencies. And the other analogy we have discussed that a light bulb, say in a room, you need a smaller light bulb because the room is small. And in a bigger room, you may need a bigger or a floodlight. Now, in a smaller room, just because you have the smaller bulb does not reduce the capacity of the electricity. So Krishna is the source as the source electricity. And Bhagavatam someplace describes that Krishna has everything in 100%. Other incarnations have the potencies in limited portion, and whatever potencies they have, the incarnations only show the required potencies. But when Krishna comes, he has all the potency. Therefore, the name Krishna has more power as compared to any other name. So Krishna is the source as the source electricity. And Bhagavatam someplace describes that Krishna has everything in 100%. Other incarnations have the potencies in limited portion, and whatever potencies they have, the incarnations only show the required potencies. But when Krishna comes, he has all the potency. Therefore, the name Krishna has more power as compared to the other names. The statement that was extracted from one of the verse in Bhagavatam. So, Nima, does that help?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you.
Everybody on the same page? So there's a question posted in the chat. Let me read. Krishna was not present physically during Dhruv Maharaj's time. Then is there any reason why Narad Muni gave him the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya? Also, why is this mantra not prescribed in Kali Yuga and our Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Very good. I just discussed the same point in the earlier class today. So this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.8.53 and 54 verse. I will bring up on screen and we will read. So in earlier yugas, the prescribed mantra to chant was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Therefore, Srila Narad Muni, as spiritual master of Dhruv Maharaj, asked Dhruv Maharaj to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And in Kali Yuga, the prescribed mantra is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So I'll bring up on screen this 4.8.53 and 54 where Prabhupada has explained this point. Let's read. I have 4.8.53 on screen. We'll read this and the following verse. They are linked verses where the following verse goes on to explain about the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Paulami, you want to read the translation and purport from the screen, 4.8.53?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. O son of the king, now I shall speak unto you the mantra which is to be chanted with this process of meditation. One who carefully chants this mantra for 7 nights can see the perfect human beings flying in the sky. Purport. Prabhuji, should I read that purport?
Yeah.
Okay. Within this universe, there is a planet called Siddhaloka. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka are by nature perfect in the yoga achievements, which are of 8 varieties. One can become smaller than the smallest, lighter than the lightest, or bigger than the biggest. One can immediately get whatever he likes. One can even create a planet, etc. These are some of the yogic perfections. By virtue of the Laghima Siddhi or purificatory process to become lighter than the lightest, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka can fly in the sky without airplanes or airships. It is hinted therein by Narada Muni to Dhruva Maharaja, that by meditating upon the transcendental form of the Lord and at the same time chanting the mantra, one becomes so perfect within 7 days that he can see the human beings who fly in the sky. Narada Muni uses the word japa, which indicates that the mantra to be chanted is very confidential. One may ask, if it is confidential, why is it mentioned in the writing of Srimad Bhagavatam? It is confidential in this sense. One may receive a published mantra anywhere, but unless it is accepted to the chain of disciplic succession, the mantra does not act. It is said by authoritative sources that any mantra chanted without having been received from the disciplic succession has no efficacy. Another point established in this verse is that meditation should be carried on with chanting of a mantra. Chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is the easiest process of meditation in this age. As soon as one chants the Hare Krishna mantra, he sees the forms of Krishna, Rama and their energies, and that is the perfect stage of trance. One should not artificially try to see the form of the Lord while chanting Hare Krishna, but when chanting is performed offenselessly, the Lord will automatically reveal himself to the view of the chanter. Therefore, the chanter has to concentrate on hearing the vibration, and without extra endeavor on his part, the Lord will automatically appear. Hare
Right.
Krishna.
So japa and that confidential mantra that Dhruv Maharaj received from his spiritual master Narad Muni is there in the next verse, which is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Prabhupada clarifies that in Kali Yuga, it is the HareKrsna Mahamantra. So let's read the next verse. They are linked verses to the point. So now we have 4.8.54. Path Prabhu can read the translation and purport from the screen, 4.8.54.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just 1 minute. Text 4.8.54. Am I audible,
Yeah.
Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. One should install physical forms of the Lord, and with the chanting of the mantra, one should offer flower and fruits and other varieties of foodstuff exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by authorities. But this should be done in consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences. Purport. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is known as the Dashakara mantra. This mantra is chanted by Vaishnava devotees, and it begins with pranava or omkara. There is an injunction that those who are not Brahmanas cannot pronounce the pranava's mantra. But Dhruva Maharaj was born a Kshatriya. He at once admitted before Narada Muni that as a Kshatriya he was unable to accept Narada's instruction of renunciation and mental equilibrium, which are concern of a Brahmana. Still, although not a Brahmana but a Kshatriya, Dhruva was allowed on the authority of Narada to pronounce the pranava omkara. This is very significant, especially in India. The caste Brahmanas object greatly when persons from other caste who are not born in Brahmana families recite this pranava mantra. But here is tacit proof that if a person accepts the Vaishnava mantra or Vaishnava way of worshipping the deity, he is allowed to chant the pranava mantra. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord personally accepts that anyone, even one of a low species, can be elevated to the highest position and go back home, back to Godhead, simply if you worship properly. The prescribed rules is
very good. So basically the point is already explained, the inquiry about Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and the HareKrsna Mahamantra. Does that answer, Paulami?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Prabhuji, one small follow-up, just a small follow-up here, that when we are doing the mantra chanting, that means without the guru or disciplic succession, that means is it we are trying to chant the mantras telling the Lord that please guide me towards a guru from whom I'll get it officially, and then it will be even more valid. Is
Correct
it like
point.
that?
Yeah, correct point, and exactly what Sumnima has also inquired in the chat. Sumnima says, is that the same reason why it is said that unless one is initiated, their chanting is not actually accepted because it did not come through disciplic succession? So we read in the previous verse, 4.8.53, in the purport, Prabhupada explains that you can take a published mantra, but it has no meaning. And Prabhupada used the medical term efficacy, and we have Ramya here who can explain that much better. I will let her explain once I finish explaining. That Prabhupada said anyone can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, whether or not they are initiated. You still get the benefit. The benefit is less. But once you get initiated, the spiritual master gives you on the initiation day the japa beads and says, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on the japa bead. Means the spiritual master is giving you the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and connecting you in the parampara. So now after initiation, when you chant, you get connected, and your benefit of chanting is much more. Does not mean before initiation you don't get the benefit, just the degree is very less of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The benefit is quite less. Ramya, you want to explain from your medical terms what does efficacy mean?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it's basically the potency of a drug to cure a disease, regardless of the person who is it's given to. Basically, a population and those who have same characteristics, that drug should work to cure that disease.
Right, cure. Perfect answer, right? So we are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to cure ourselves. Right now, I am in a diseased condition. So the benefit of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra before initiation, there is benefit because Hare Krishna Mahamantra is potent. The benefit is less. And once you get initiated and you get the mantra from your bona fide initiating spiritual master, you get a lot more benefit. Does that answer, Somnima, Paulami, Remya? Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. So,
Yes,
Prabhuji, another little thing, just trying to connect it in like a match. Like it's like I'm doing ABCD at home, but the spiritual master is like the class teacher. I have to go there and get in a school, and that's what's connecting me to that succession, right? Otherwise,
Correct.
the degree I won't get, honestly,
Correct.
even if I know.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely correct.
okay.
Right. You can
Yes,
buy
getting.
books from the store and start reading and think that I will go on to become a doctor. Well, Remya has actually gone to medical school. So Remya is considered a doctor. Well, if I read medical books, I may know a few terms, but nobody will recognize me as a doctor.
Yes, Prabhuji. Now got it. Thank you so much.
Right. So we have discussed this analogy it should be in Nectar of Instruction, yeah. That by sadhu sangha, we are going to a doctor. Then we are taking the medication and we are seeing whether the medication is helping me. So before initiation, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is like you are testing. So just as say when you take a shower, when you are wanting to take a shower in very cold weather, you first want to test the water. Is it warm enough? Because initially the water also comes out cold. So this chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra before initiation is like you are testing. Is this beneficial? Is this helping me? Yes, it is going to help you. Just the help will be less as compared to when you get initiated and get the Hare Krishna Mahamantra from the bona fide spiritual master. Everybody on the same page? So all of you should get initiated. Even if you are not ready for initiation, you should approach a bona fide spiritual master who has the ability to give you initiation. You should take that bona fide spiritual master as your Siksha Guru. So he will continue to guide you, and later you can come to getting initiation. But even if you are not ready, just take a bona fide spiritual master as your Siksha Guru. I've spoken to many of you offline. I don't know what happened after my discussion offline, then it has fallen off for many of you. So you should have a follow-up conversation with me. And those of you who have not had this conversation with me, some of you are present here. You should have a follow-up. You should have a conversation with me, not a follow-up, but a conversation with me about initiation, or at least approaching a bona fide spiritual master as a Siksha Guru. Everybody can do that, please. Follow up and have an initial conversation if you haven't had the conversation with me about initiation. So I will point you to a verse from Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31. You see how all of you are silent? Bhagavatam actually says this, that spiritual master gives you instruction. I'm not a spiritual master, but I'm speaking what the spiritual master would say. So spiritual master gives the instruction, and the devotee hears, and then the devotee goes back to doing his own things instead of following on what the spiritual master is instructing. So it's actually there in a verse. It's the verse is from Canto 4, Chapter 29. I will bring up on screen. Yeah, it is 4:29:52. I will bring up on screen and we'll read this verse just so that you all can wake up. So Narad Muni speaks this verse 4:9:52 to wake up Prachine Barisat to immediately renounce everything, because Narad Muni spoke all the instructions and Prachina Barisat is still thinking, oh, you know what, I understand what you are saying, but blah, 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 blah. He's still trying to find excuses. So Prabhupada explains this. Kunal Prabhu, you want to read 4:29:52 translation purport from screen.
The great Saint Narada continued, O great personality, I have replied properly about all that you have asked me. Now hear another narration that is accepted by saintly persons and is very confidential. Hare Krishna.
Purport.
Purport. Sri Narada Muni is personally acting as the spiritual master of King Bharisman. It was Narada Muni's intention that through his instructions the king would immediately give up all engagement in fruitive activity and take to devotional service. However, although the king understood everything, he was still not prepared to give up his engagements. As the following verses will show, the king was contemplating sending his sons, who were away from home executing austerities and penances. After their return, he would entrust his kingdom to them and leave home. This is the position of most people. They accept a bona fide spiritual master and listen to him, but when the spiritual master indicates that they should leave home and fully engage in devotional service, they hesitate. The duty of the spiritual master is to instruct the disciple as long as he does not come to the understanding that this materialistic way of life, fruitive activity, is not at all beneficial. Actually, one should take to devotional service from the beginning of life, as Prahlad Maharaj advised, Kaumara Achre Prajno Dharmanan Bhagwan Iha. Bhagavatam 7.6.1. According to all the instructions of the Vedas, we can understand that unless one takes to Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is simply wasting his time engaging in fruitive activities. of material existence. Narada Muni therefore decided to relate another allegory to the king so that he might be induced to give up family life with material existence. Hare Krishna.
Right, so we read Bhagavatam 7.6.1 today, just a few minutes ago, that one should start devotional service from beginning of life. And therefore Narad Muni is explaining to King Prachini again, so that Prachini gives up all material world attachments right now. So this point, Prabhupada explains, this is the position of most people, that they accept bona fide spiritual master, listen to him. They say, okay, I understand. But when the spiritual master indicates that engage in devotional service, then they hesitate. So all of you, those who have had this offline discussion with me about getting a spiritual master, you tell me whether you are in that same position or not. When you discuss with me, you all will, yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. Everybody said, yeah, I understand. But it's been a couple of months. What have you all done? Some of you have followed through, that some of you have completed the ISKCON disciple course. Some of you are on the path of just waiting to hear back from spiritual masters. Some of you have followed through, taken a mentor. Rest of you, I don't know what you did. I want to hear from everybody. Is this your position? Or do I need to play the greater sound?
So, Prabhuji, I think what Prabhupada has written like almost 50 years back, I mean, that wisdom is still valid and it is like touching exact points.
You are correct. Prabhupada knew on 26 April 2026, this discussion is going to come up. Therefore, he has put it ahead of time for all of us. Acharyas know the future. Rest of you, Kunal Prabhu, thank you. Very good. Rest of you,
Yes, Prabhuji, it is truly correct. There is, to me at least.
all right. Very good. For rest of you, the greater sound is appropriate.
No, this is applicable to me, not the greater sound.
Right. So all of you who have had the initial conversation with me a couple months ago about initiation or approaching a bona fide spiritual master to take as Siksha Guru should have a follow-up conversation with me. And those of you who haven't had a discussion with me about initiation, you should have a discussion with me to understand more on what steps you should take right away. You don't need to wait. We clearly read, Prahlad Maharaj has said, we should start devotional service from the age of 5 or even in the womb. So I understand we might have not started because we didn't knew, but we don't have to wait. We can start from age 5 or earlier or as soon as is possible. So start as soon as is possible. Why do you have to wait? All right. Question number 6. How to make someone who has some level of faith and not an atheist understand the importance of Khatvanga Maharaj's story if they do not believe in afterlife. So Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita 2.12, never was there a time when you and I and all these kings did not exist, and never will there be a time when you, I, and these kings will cease to exist. So, and Krishna has also explained transmigration of soul in Bhagavad Gita 2.13. So you can explain or show these verses, Bhagavad Gita 2.12, 2.13, to this devotee person. Now, more importantly, preach according to your level. To convince someone on the strength of scriptures is the ability of spiritual master, is the ability of Uttamadhikari. And if I am a neophyte, my ability is to distribute prasadam and carry books from point A to point B like a postmaster. I do not have the ability to transform someone. So you can show them these verses and simultaneously you can demonstrate your humility. You can say that I am not qualified and ask this person whether he or she will be willing to talk to a senior devotee from temple to answer their inquiries. This way, this person gets to come to temple, take darshan, associate with devotees, take prasadam, maybe also do some services. Otherwise, it is generally very, very difficult to transform someone. It's not impossible, it's just very difficult. At least for me as a neophyte, it's very difficult. Now, even at material world level, some of you might have attended courses showing it is very difficult to change behavior, even at material world level. Now, does not mean we do not preach. No, we should preach. It is just that we should preach according to our level and bring this person in contact with some senior devotee at a temple who may be able to answer their follow-up questions. What will happen is that if I am a neophyte, yes, I can show these verses 2.12 and 2.13, and then this person will have a follow-up inquiry, and most likely I as a neophyte, I will go, I don't know. Right? So better approach is you can show these verses and say, can you please come meet a senior devotee at the temple and they will be able to answer you much more better than what I can answer. Does that help with the inquiry? All right. Question number 7. I am just curious to understand that why mostly the letter Om is seen associated with Lord Shiva, while in the Archa Vigraha form of Krishna or Vishnu, we don't see Om. So we have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 17 that Om Tat Sat is non-personal way of referring to the absolute truth. At Shri Radha Krishna temples, because devotees know Krishna's personal form, name, hence there is no need to refer to Krishna with Om. Therefore, you don't see it. Question number 8. Can you please describe the Achinta Bhed Abhed Tattva in a little bit more detail? So, Achinta Bhed Abhed Tattva is simultaneous oneness and difference. So this is mystic opulence of Krishna. Mystic does not mean unclear. Rather, mystic means astonishing, wonderful. So Krishna has his original Shyam Sundar Swarupa in Goloka Vrindavan. Simultaneously, Krishna is all pervading the material world. Means simultaneous oneness and difference. And Srila Prabhupada has said that if you understand Achinta Bhed Abhed Tattva, then it will be very easy to understand and follow Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is not easy to understand, and therefore Krishna appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the one who propounded this Achinta Bhed Abhed Tattva because it was not very clear for everyone. So understand, at least at the start in theory, what I described. And as you progress on reading more scriptures, as you all are doing diligently week after week after week, more things will get clearer. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Follow me?
Prabhuji, one question just related to, similar to the tomb. In Bengali, we have a mantra. We say for Devi, Durga, we say Sarva Sharthi Hare Devi, Narayani Namastude. Is that Hare connected anyways to the Hare of Hare Krishna? Is there any female section there? Like everything is Purushottama, but is there any possibility?
So I don't know what that mantra is. You chanted very nicely in Bengali, but I don't know what that mantra is. Now, so I cannot answer what that mantra says. We don't need to go to any Devi. Now, in terms of the female form of Krishna, Bhagavatam describes that Krishna originally is Purusha, the male form. His original Shyam Sundar form is the original Purusha form. And whenever there is a need for the feminine form to be demonstrated, the female form or the feminine form, the feminine feature of the Lord are in Srimati Radharani's form or Lakshmi or Mother Sita. So I'll bring up that verse. It is 4.8.47. We'll read the verse and translation. Let me bring up. Priyanka will read the translation and purport. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Translation: The Lord is further described as having the mask of Srivatsa or the sitting place of the goddess of fortune, and his bodily hue is deep bluish. The Lord is a person. He wears a garland of flowers, and he is eternally manifest with four hands which hold, beginning from the lower left hand, a conch shell, wheel, club, and a lotus flower. Purport. Here in this verse, the word Purusham is very significant. The Lord is never female. He is always male, Purusha. Therefore, the impersonalist who imagines the Lord's form as that of a woman is mistaken. The Lord appears in the female form if necessary, but his perpetual form is Purusha because he is originally male. The feminine feature of the Lord is displayed by goodness, by goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, Radharani, Sita, etc. All these goddesses of fortune are servitors of the Lord. They are not supreme as falsely imagined by the impersonalists. Lord Krishna is his Narayan. In his Narayana feature is always four-handed. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Arjuna wanted to see his universal form, he showed this feature of four-handed Narayana. Some devotees are of the opinion that Krishna is an incarnation of Narayana, but the Bhagavad school says that Narayana is a manifestation of Krishna.
Right. So one who imagines Lord's form as female is mistaken. When there is a necessary for the feminine form to display, then it is there in Lakshmi, Radharani, Sita, etc. But otherwise, Lord's original form is Purusha perpetually. And this is also described in 1.3.1328, yeah, that Krishna is the original incarnation. All other incarnation, not original incarnation, but he is the original Supreme Personality of Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. All other incarnations come from Krishna. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji, got it. Thank you.
So we should also read 1328. It's a key memorization verse. Who wants to recite? Sumnima has not read. Sumnima, you want to recite and read the translation?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, I can try the recitation.
I can recite and then you can follow to know how to proceed. So 1328. Ete cha amsha kalo pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Sumnima.
Hare Krishna. Etacham kala pumsha Krishna tu Bhagwan Swayam Indarati Vyakulam Lokam Mritayanti Yuge Yuge. Translation. All of the above mentioned incarnation are either plenary portion or portion of plenary portion of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is disturbance created by atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theist.
Right. So
Purpose.
yeah, that's okay. Right. So Krishna is original and all other incarnations come from Krishna. Let's see if there is, yeah. So I explained earlier Sumnima's point about the bulb analogy is right here. I pointed to 1328. It's explained right here in the earlier discussion we were having. Sumnima, does that further help?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
I think Candle might be here also or somewhere else. Let's see. I don't find Candle this, but some other place. Yeah, Candle analogy is somewhere else in Canto 1. All right. Last question for today. If the Supreme Lord is purely transcendental and beyond the reach of material senses, why does the Srimad Bhagavatam recommend meditating on the gross material form, where the mountains are his bones and rivers are his vein, as the very first step in realizing God? So I will underline these words, gross material form. So we have discussed that universal form is not a material form. Bhagavad Gita's universal form is real, just not eternal. Bhagavad Gita's universal form is transcendental, just that the universal form annihilates when material universe annihilates. We have discussed at great length that Srimad Bhagavatam's universal form is neither real nor eternal. Srimad Bhagavatam's universal form is just a conception. So Srimad Bhagavatam appeals to all classes of men, including even materialistic persons or even those seeking liberation. So Srimad Bhagavatam starts by wanting to help those not having any spiritual attraction. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam starts with the conception of universal form. Srimad Bhagavatam's universal form is the conception so as to get the imagination of materialistic persons directed towards spirituality. Therefore, Canto 2, Chapter 1 is rightly titled first step in God realization. Srimad Bhagavatam then progresses to Paramatma realization and then further progresses to Bhagwan realization. Does that answer the inquiry?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you. The last point for today, I have posted in the chat AI website. Our dear Kunal Prabhu has created a AI website which you can use. You can ask any questions and get answers based on references from Srila Prabhupada's books. So I posted the link in the chat. Try this out. Kunal Prabhu has done a very good job. Used his ability in Krishna's service. Kunal Prabhu, you want to share something?
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you for highlighting that. I was thinking because I usually face this issue like when I have any question, it is very difficult to search the exact verse or exact purport or exactly what is mentioned in the scriptures. So, I mean, this you just type in like maybe what are the examples of stories about Indradev in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it gives you a one-shot summary. So, yeah,
very good.
more examples like that. So, yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you are correct. Thank you. You made a very nice tool, handy tool for all of us to use on a day-to-day basis. And this is very good. That the point I was explaining in one of the earlier question, that when say somebody asks you a question, that say you point them to verses 2.12 and 13, and then they have a follow-up. Where will you go? So you have this website handy. Of course, before you go, you should do your research and try to be ready to answer whatever questions come up. And Kunal Prabhu has given us a very handy tool, very nice. Just as earlier, Sumnima had created, not had, but has. Sumnima has created this app which gives you questions and you can answer. It keeps you engaged in Krishna consciousness. Very nice. All of you are doing very nice using your abilities in Krishna's service. Srila Prabhupada and Krishna will be very pleased with you all. Thank you, all of you. So I will post next lecture in the series, which is on Canto 2, Chapter 2, as well as I will post the link to complete your spiritual endeavors. All of you are doing very nice with your spiritual endeavors, except for one or two. You need to get back on track. And all of you are doing very nice detailed spiritual endeavors with your striking points. For last little while, I have not brought up on screen, but you continue to do the same way. And those who are falling behind, fine tune. So we have discussed that deviations are bound to happen. So we just have to fine tune. It's only one or two of you who are lacking behind. The rest of you are doing this very diligently. Thank you all for following the instructions that Srila Prabhupada has given to us. All right, we'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.